A Nebraska feedlot is under fire after nearly 100 head of cattle were found dead. Coming up tonight on Grow, we will have more on the case from Furnace County, including reaction from those who say it saddens them to see someone who doesn't live up to industry standards. Plus, Israel drops its ban on U.S. beef, and beef from right here in central Nebraska is on its way. And we meet our Farm Youth of the Month. It's time to grow. A central Nebraska feedlot is under fire. Cattle found dead. More on that in a moment. But first, Israel opens its doors more than a decade after banning U.S. beef, and a Hastings company is first in line. Nebraska Ag Director Greg Ibaugh praised WR Reserve for complying with a rigorous inspection process that included Israeli government regulator visits. Israel had banned U.S. beef after a case of BSE, sometimes called mad cow disease, was confirmed in the United States back in December 2003. Senator Deb Fischer traveled to Israel to make this happen. She issued a statement saying, quote, "Nebraska beef producers are the best in the world. This historic agreement with Israel is a testament to our producers' tireless commitment to delivering safe, high-quality beef products to dinner tables around the globe," end quote. Fischer worked with the USDA and Israeli government. It's a big boost for Nebraska beef, with a reputation already known worldwide. Maryland spoke with State Ag Director Greg Ibaugh for his reaction.
What's your reaction to this? How important is this to Nebraska beef economy, especially?
Well, we're always excited when there's a new market open to Nebraska farmers and ranchers and feedlots. And, you know, in last year, Israel imported about $400 million worth of beef products, and those all came from Latin America and Europe. And so we're hoping to, you know, take some of that market availability, as well as having our high-quality beef in there may increase demand for beef overall. And so we think that there's a great opportunity for this to be a good niche market.
Congressman Adrian Smith says it's only fitting that first shipment would come from right here in central Nebraska. Nebraska's 3rd Congressional District is #1 for agriculture. Smith calls it a success story to fight what he calls non-scientific trade barriers. Now to that criminal case on a Nebraska feedlot. Steve Klassen faces 6 felony counts of neglect of livestock and 6 misdemeanors after investigators found 93 dead cattle left to rot at his feedlot. According to court records, Klassen recently filed for bankruptcy and had a history with the State Department of Environmental Quality going back at least 10 years. They had accused him of operating without a permit and discharging waste into area land and water. Feedlot operators across the state say they are saddened. We will hear from them later in the show, but continue our coverage now with this report from NTV's Lauren Scharf.
I think this is a very rare situation.
Veterinarian Kathy Whitman was sent to Steve Klassen's feedlot in Beaver City January 19th to check out what kind of shape the cattle were in.
The decomposition ranged from, you know, there's bones scattered across the pen to cattle that were, you know, still mostly intact. So it was a wide range. Some were ground, you know, in the ground and things like that.
Dr. Whitman says when she's called out, she establishes the history of the livestock, looks at the quality of feed and conditions of the pen, and sees if there's enough bunk space.
Start to combine these factors, and if they're all, you know, in the negative category, then we start to think, yeah, these cattle are not being cared for like they should be.
And in the Furnace County case, she determined the condition of the cattle with the lack of water and feed bunk space meant neglect.
Whatever they got fed was not adequate. So I can't say, you know, I can't speak to the fact that he fed them every day or how often, but based on their body condition score, it wasn't adequate nutrition for them to maintain an appropriate body condition score.
She also points to common sense when it comes to determining the type of care animals receive.
If an animal looks thin and bony and you can see their ribs and, you know, their hair coat is poor, you know, those are some big signs.
USDA is looking for trends in pig production. later this month, the National Egg Statistics Service will contact pork producers looking for detailed information on market hog and breeding stock inventories. Officials say it helps gauge the state of the industry. If you receive that survey, you can respond online, by mail, or fax. Survey is also coming out soon to gauge planting intentions. They plan to survey around 3,800 Nebraska growers. USDA officials say it's one of the most important surveys of the year as they try to get an idea of what will be planted on acres of farm ground across the state. A cut to crop insurance, $18 billion on the line over the course of 10 years. Now egg officials are fighting to defend why their budget shouldn't be cut. Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack presented requests for the Department of Agriculture asking for a significant increase in funding for the USDA's Agriculture and Food Research Initiative, plus full funding for conservation programs and funding to place 5 USDA employees at the new embassy in Cuba to promote agricultural products. Farm income continues to decline in Midwestern and Western states, according to the Federal Reserve. Declining prices for cattle, soybeans, wheat, and corn are leaving farmers to borrow more money. But bankers report few problems with farmers failing to make loan payments thus far. Farmland values also dipping, a fall of 4% for non-irrigated land and 2% for irrigated. Ranch land value was flat, but this after a dip of about 8% in the first 9 months of last year. The tax on that land still very much up for debate here in Nebraska. Farmers often on one side, schools on the other side of the governor's tax plan. Here's more from both sides.
Public schools are saddled with a lot of responsibilities, and we expect a lot from them.
A former school board member, David Grimes, says education is vital for Nebraska.
And we need a good public education. That's not an expense, that's an investment, that's our future.
But as a farmer, Grimes says property taxes are a major problem in the here and now, especially with farm income way down.
If we don't do something this year, there's probably some folks that are going to suffer because of it.
We truly understand that our farmers and large landowners are feeling the brunt.
York Superintendent Mike Lucas sympathizes, but says schools aren't to blame.
I worry that there's this us versus them mentality between farmers and ranchers and school folks.
Lucas says the real problem is the way state funding to schools has eroded over time.
We don't have a school spending problem, we have a school funding problem.
David Grimes, on the board of Nebraska Farm Bureau, agrees the state should put more income and sales tax dollars into schools. The governor has taken a different approach, supported by Farm Bureau, that would limit the taxable value of farmland and tighten spending controls on schools.
Taxes on farm and ranch real estate have increased 176%.
The plan with the governor's backing also has support of key senators. Whatever they do, farmers want them to do something.
We do think there's a sense of urgency.
Feedlot operators shocked over allegations of animal abuse. Our Grow interview is up next.